all but one scattered like cockroaches when you turn on the light. They were just gone. And the one person who said, yeah, I'd like to talk, was the young lady I talked about earlier. Because some light bulb went off in her head that if I start now, there's going to be a huge payoff later. When you get to this later point in life where income isn't as secure or consistent as it once was, poor planning or less than ideal planning can really sort of have an effect. And that is a bit of what I'd like to talk about today. Again, not as a financial expert, not by any means, but really more just as someone who's just encountered some things and realized too late or not soon enough that things could have been a lot different and a lot better. And what are those things? Well, one clearly is spending. We can live within our means or we can live outside of them. And oftentimes, my wife and I chose to live outside of our means. It was fun. And many times we lived within our means, but lived to the limit of our means. And, the old saying, it doesn't matter how much you make, it's what you spend. If you make $1,000 a month and spend $700, you're living within your means. If you make $20,000 a month and spend $20,000, you're living at the limit, the peak of your means. And that's where we often were a lot. Not the $20,000 piece, I wish. But the idea of living at that limit and at times beyond it, because what happens invariably, this is what happened to us, maybe you, maybe somebody you know, is that unexpecteds come up. You're doing fine, you're kind of at that edge, you're enjoying it, you're young, everything is going great. And then what do you realize? Boom, you get hit with a bill of some kind, or just even something unexpected. An out-of-town wedding you need to attend that month, or some other factor, and it leads to this great expense that you weren't really planning for. And so it ends up taking a hit. And of course, there's credit cards, there's little savings you can take it out of. It doesn't seem a big deal at the time. And in isolation, it's really not. We can't predict life and our numbers that accurately. I mean, I guess we can be incredibly diligent and do that. But for a lot of people, that's not going to be a real fun way to exist either. But the key takeaway is doing that consistently for years is what can cause a significant disruption in comfort as one approaches retirement, career change, a combination of both, or semi-retirement. I can give you a quick example of I was at a job one time. I was the program manager of a mental health program, and we had several staff that worked for me. I forget, there was 6, 7, 8 staff that worked at this program, and I was their supervisor. And at one point, the company that we worked for, the agency, had decided that we should all become more financially literate. Yay, good for them. Well, we didn't think so at the time because it was an inconvenience, and we'd have to go to a training with some financial advisors that none of us really felt we had the time to sit through. And I remember clearly as the date was coming up for the financial advisors to come out to our site and do the presentation, I had one young staff member. She was 23. I don't remember her name anymore, but she was 23, who was complaining that she had no extra income. She had nothing to invest. She was making maybe, I don't know, $12 an hour. I can't remember what we paid these folks back then. It wasn't very much. And she was like, this is stupid. It's a waste of my time. And I'm like, I know we have to do it. It's part of the company. Maybe we can get something out of it. Let's hope. But let's do it. It's the best we can do. We have no choice. So the meeting rolls around. Everybody grudgingly goes, sits, listens to the presentation. And of course, they present lots of great numbers. If you're in your early 20s and you save $25, $50 a month, I don't remember exactly what they were saying, that by the time you're in your 30s and your income is raised, you can now save more per month. In your 40s, more. In your 50s, your prime earning years, this amount. And they were all very reasonable numbers, incredibly reasonable. That by the time you get 65 to retirement age, you will have, with compounding interest at monthly deposits, X amount of dollars. And it was something really nice, outrageously large number. And it was a great presentation. Ultimately, they were done. They thanked us for our time. It was about 40 minutes. And they said they'd be around for about another 20 minutes if anybody wanted to sign up or just even had any questions for them. And my staff, of course, as soon as they said that, all but one scattered like cockroaches when you turn on the light. They were just gone. And the one person who said, yeah, I'd like to talk, was the young lady I talked about earlier. Because some light bulb went off in her head that if I start now, there's going to be a huge payoff later. Some sacrifices today are going to mean a payout later. And that really, really intrigued her. Now, I've never talked to her. At some point, we all went our own way. I don't know how much longer there I worked there. It's been 20 years now, maybe, since I worked at that job. And I hope she's continued it. She'd be now probably mid-40s, probably a family, who knows, and hopefully is really working on a lot of nice security for herself. So that's all I got to say on that one. Now, in terms of, back to what, we can all do, that's one way of living within our means, is putting aside a certain amount for savings, both for emergency savings, things that might come up, savings for fun potentially, because we, want to do things and they might take a bit of a cash flow to be able to do that, and then savings for retirement. I'll come back to this topic again. I just wanted to share a little bit. There's several other factors that have led to these current circumstances. Like I said, some internal, some external, but we're going to leave it at that for right now. Think about your own circumstance. Leave a comment potentially on what yours is like, and we can start building a community around people who are transitioning, who are in later years, who are entering retirement, semi-retirement, changing career, and we can all support each other as we work through the challenges that exist in making that transition.